Good morning. Good morning. I'm so glad that you are here. I am so glad I am here. Yeah, it's been a while. I am Reverend Bob Renjilian. I use he, him pronouns. By the way, those of you who are early in the summer know that we have stickers out at the countertop in the lobby. If you want to put your pronouns on as a sticker on your name tag, you can do that. This is the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County, and our mission is to help with spiritual growth and to support justice, social, economic, and environmental justice. We're glad you're with us, whether you've been here a million times before or just coming around for the first, second, or third time. Fourth time, we're not so sure. As you might get a sense, I would rather have levity in the service than seriousness, even though today's service is a good, serious subject. I hope we will all find ourselves challenged in new ways that are enlightening and put a spring in our step. We have a few announcements this morning. One that I've been reminded of, I'm going to highlight first, is Wonderful Wednesday. We have Pretty Little Goat. You know what Pretty Little Goat is? Yeah. Josh and Mallory Carter playing concert for us, including some songs that are going to be in their coming up new CD and a whole bunch of things that have never been recorded. And that'll be this Wednesday, 5:30 for the meal. Last time I heard it was down to about 15 spaces at most left, and I saw some people flipping on the chart out there and writing their names in. So who knows? But sign out in the lobby today. This is about your last chance, unless you do it online, to let us know how many we're preparing for the meal. You don't have to sign up for the 6:30 part, which is the Pretty Little Goat, the music time together, because we've got all these spaces and seats, although they are popular. So, yeah. I'm hoping it's a good turnout for that one. Also want to mention the mountain retreat. The UUTC is having a retreat on a different set of days. We were finding that when we put it on a weekend the last few years, people kept saying, well, that's the weekend of my special whatever, craft show, music show, getaway, women's circle, whatever it was. If we put it on a weekend, people said, well, we already have plans. So guess what? We chose to start on the Sunday night of Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day weekend. So you can do Sunday night after you're back from your other stuff. All day Monday, which is off, so kids are definitely invited to come and have fun. And then the next night, and we'll leave lunchtime on Tuesday. We're going to see if this works for us. So far, we have 22 people signed up officially with the mountain. And we have a whole bunch of people who thought they were registering, who told us in the office, and you're not registered because you told us, not the mountain. Can you put the slide back up there? You need to call their phone number. Trying to register online with them is gruesome. I will accept our administrator's word for it. But see up there, there's 828-526-5838. We'll get you that number. It's really easy when you do it by phone. They're so friendly, and they make it work. Yeah. So let's see. What else? UU the vote. I've been away for a month or so, and apparently in my being away and us not having a coordinator here at UUTC, some communication was lost, and we do not have our set of names for postcards. Reclaim Our Vote addresses are now available, and we don't have them. We'll be writing to, how do you pronounce Cabarrus County? Cabarrus County, Rowan, and Mecklenburg counties. That organization has picked out some folks who are maybe getting a postcard will help turn out from marginalized communities to show up. We like promoting democracy. And we have a whole bunch of people who had helped last year, so I kept you on the list. And we have some people who didn't help but told me they want to help. And the more people we have, the easier it goes. We had maybe 500 postcards to send out last time, so spreading them around many different people made it easier to write and send postcards. And we'll see how many more they might give us this time. Lisa Garcia-Sampson from the North Carolina UU Social Justice Network here is going to be talking to me tomorrow and saying, okay, Bob, we'll fix it. You missed out, but we'll fix it. And we'll get some postcards and some addresses. Those were my announcements this morning. And Midge, thank you. We can light our candles, our joys, our sorrows coming together this morning. I do not see a note left for me of any candles of joy or sorrow. Do you know of any?
Well, I can say something from my side.
Okay, go right here.
My daughter, who's had cancer for 4.5 years, she's now going back to work as a special needs teacher, and her students come on Tuesday.
Lovely.
And it's a blessing.
Go right ahead. I'd like to light a candle for the joys and the challenges of the Olympics and the ups and downs, who gets disqualified, who loses their medal, who gains a medal, but most of all, sportsmanship and the ways in which people come together in competition, but in ways that help support our sense of humanity. Let's light a candle for the things that haven't been shared among those who are here or perhaps those online watching us. Let's remember to check in with one another, keep in touch, and let us know what's going on in your lives, because this is how we weave the fabric of community. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Would you turn to one another and greet each other with worth and dignity?
Oh, hi. Opening words. Come in from the wind. That is by Heather Ryan Starr. Reverend Heaven Ryan Starr is the minister of the Unitarian Universalist of Southern Delaware. She is a lifelong UUer from the West Coast, married to Reverend Kathy Ryan Starr. Together, they are gladly raising their two children in the communities of coastal Delaware and Unitarian Universalism at large. On this day, as with so many Sundays, we come in from the whirling world, the wind, the bright sun, the push and pull of tides and time, from the turmoil of global news and local stories, the pain we hear of, the demands on our spirit, the do this now culture that we live in. We come into this sanctuary from that windstorm, the rushing of speeding drivers on the roadways, the rustling silence that fills some of our homes, the vastness of a once busy and perhaps now quieter house. All of this can leave us feeling stirred and unsettled. When we give our attention to what's going on around and beyond us in this throbbing world, we can feel windblown. We need places where we can come and find our grounding once again. Come in from the wind, come in from the whirl. May this be a place where we can experience genuine stillness, even just for a few moments. May this be a place where we can count on, as we turn onto the driveway behind the South Broad Park or on our property. Or as we turn on the computers and continue seeking our congregational YouTube page, may we feel pulled in the restorative time of energetic peace. May this be a place of learning, of nourishment, a community that generates new zest in us for the dynamic beauty of this world. Come, let us worship together.
I invite you to rise and sing as you're willing and able. Hymn number 40, The Morning Hangs a Signal. No, are you going to help with the chalice lighting?
Yeah.
That's not wrong at all. Sitting is a good thing.
Okay.
The words will be on the screen,
Oh, okay.
and you just help lead them.
Oh, that's the part. I thought it was.
Midge and I are still working out our
We're working
teamwork.
out teamwork. Yeah.
We are. We
And
are.
he's the boss.
Well,
No, you're the boss.
yeah, and
I'm-
the neat thing about being boss in this place is people laugh at me as boss.
Well, hey, what can you say? Okay, I'll behave.
All right.
I was a little lost there.
Go ahead and start them out.
Okay. May we light this
This
chalice, remembering the freedoms long established in our nation. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom from the establishment of religion. We light this chalice, honoring those who exemplify protecting these freedoms. Librarians, booksellers, teachers, authors, journalists. We light this chalice so that by its light we may read all the books, books with archaic language, books with offensive material, books which affirm the diversity of the human race, books which normalize our varied sexualities, books which share multidimensional perspectives of history. May we bask in the glow of its light this morning as we illuminate, brighten, and radiate because of the books we have read and the books we have yet to read.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a story this morning. It's called The Wood Carver. It was by Thomas Merton. What do I know about Thomas Merton? I know that he went to Gethsemane Abbey in Trappist, Kentucky, way back, in the 60s. And my uncle was a researcher, writer in religion, professor, and he wrote on Thomas Merton and what we could learn from him. I never met Thomas Merton, but when I was in college, a religion class I was taking, we had a field trip, a weekend stay down there in Trappist, Kentucky at the monastery. And I somehow have heard this story many times, but didn't associate it with Thomas Merton. And right here it says, in the curriculum, the UUA curriculum called Tapestry of Faith, this story is published in it with permission and had all the right credits. So that's why the long preamble. So put yourself in a mind of being in a different culture, a different place. I said before that we've got the Olympics going. Lots of different countries, lots of understanding people all around the world. This is an old ancient wisdom story from China. King, the master carver, made a bell stand of precious wood, and when it was finished, all who saw it were astounded. They said it must be the work of spirits. The Prince of Lu said to the master carver, "What is your secret?" And King replied, "I'm only a workman. I have no secret. There is only this. When I began to think about the work that you commanded, I guarded my spirit. I did not expend it. I did not expend it on trifles that were not to the point. I fasted in order to set my heart at rest, and after 3 days fasting, I had forgotten gain or success. After 5 days, I had forgotten praise or criticism. After 7 days, I had forgotten my body with all of its limbs, and by this time all thought of your highness and the court had faded away. All that might distract me from the work had vanished. I was collected in the single thought of the bell stand, and then I went into the forest to see the trees in their own natural state. When the right tree appeared before my eyes, the bell stand also appeared within it. It was clear and beyond doubt. All I had to do was put forth my hand and begin. If I had not met this particular tree, there would not have been a bell stand at all. So what happened? My own collected thought encountered the hidden potential in the wood. And from this live encounter came the work which you ascribe to the spirits. I can't say that I've ever looked at a lump of clay or a tree and said, that's where it is. But then I didn't go through all the meditation that this person went through. This carver said, first I have to forget. I have to forget all of these trifling things. I have to be centered. I have to meditate. I have to fast. Then maybe I can see what I can reach from within this slab of wood, this tree, and make it into something, what I have in my mind. All of us have the chance in our lives to determine what is most important to us. And as our opening this morning said, we come from all different places in the clatter and chatter of the world and speeding cars and noise. And we come to this place and maybe have a moment to focus on what's most important to us. That's what I get out of this story. And maybe you will see something and you will know how to reach for it. Thanks for listening. I invite you into a spirit of generosity to begin pulling out your checkbooks, counting all the change in your pocket that you need to get rid of, or the big bills. What was it? There was a story out there about a $1 bill and a $20 bill talking to each other. So they're getting recycled at the bank and getting ready to go out into the world again. And the $20 bill says, I've been to the department store. I have been to the craft market. I have been everywhere. And the $1 bill says, I went to church. Give some spiritual hope to that $20 bill. And you'll find that in our basket as they're passed, we have the envelope for El Centro. El Centro proposes to create a bridge between the English-speaking and Spanish-speaking people in a community in which justice and equality are highly valued. And El Centro supports literacy and English language acquisition for school-aged children. We will now gratefully receive the morning offering. Thank you, Michael. Surprise. Thank you, RK. What is given in love, we receive with great joy. Thank you. please, center yourself. Find the right way to sit, the right way to center in a way that allows these words into your hearts and the words of your hearts out into the universe. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here this morning, who have traveled from far and near, come here for a moment to be transformed, to be given the opportunity to go deep, to connect with one another, and to know that we are a part of a supportive community. Spirit of love and life, on this day, we think of those who have been competing in a world that often has competition with its rewards in some way that takes from others. And yet, as we watch the Olympics, we are encouraged. May we have the spirit of the athlete who rejoices in the wonder of the good work exhibited among all. May we remember that this world is not just under one flag, but many. May we feel the courage to bow down to those who have achieved great things. Not because they become substitutes as gods, for they are not, but because they have exemplified something of the best of who we are. On this day, we also think of those who are undergoing treatment, have completed treatment, who are mending in their health, in particular Midge's daughter on the West Coast, who is able to go back to work now and serve the community of children who so much appreciate what she has to give. May we remember all that is in our hearts and our thoughts as we hold this silence together. In the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, we say amen. Blessed be. John and James, I so appreciate your music and thank you for being with us this morning.
I said for all of us.
Let's hope so.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes, until the killing of a black man, black mother-son is as important as the killing of a white man. White mother-son, don't you know that we who believe in freedom cannot rest? No, no, no. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. That which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. Don't you know that we who believe in freedom cannot rest? No, no, no. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Cannot rest until it comes. Oh, well, I learned as a child there are two ways to see the world as it is and the way it could be. Some people say, that's just not my problem. Some people do what must be done. Well, they see the hole in the magic that must be sown. They see the way blockaded and they roll back the stone. They see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. Yes, some people do what must be done. Well, they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon, and they do what must be done. Now I've seen the toll taken, the tears that were shed. I've seen the journey started and the ripples spread. Some people say that's just not my problem. Some people do what must be done. Well, they see the hole in the fabric that must be sewn. They see the way blockaded and they roll back the stone. They see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. Yes, some people do what must be done. Well, they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon, and they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon, and they do what must be done.
They see the day beyond the horizon. That phrase is going to fit in really well with some of what I'm reading today. And I thank John and James for bringing Bernice Johnson-Reagan and Joe Jenks's medley mix here to this and the words to this. In the spirit of that music. The reading I have is from the book, if Doug, you can put the slide on the screen, How We Ended Racism, Realizing a New Possibility in One Generation by Justin Michael Williams and Shelley, I'm going to try Tigilski. And if I pronounce it wrong, it's because I didn't listen to their podcasts. I only read their books. This reading's from their book. Dr. John J. Siegel, a good friend of ours, a pioneer in interpersonal neurobiology and the author of the book Intra-Connected, taught us a concept that he calls intra-connection, not to be confused with the usual way we see and use the word interconnection. The difference between the two words can be described like this. Interconnection is the connections between separate parts. Intraconnection is the connection between something that is already whole. Interconnection is the wrong word to use to create a reality without racism because it refers to the desire to connect separate parts, which automatically infer and assume an inherent disconnection. The language sets up a fallacy that each of us is separate rather than inviting us into the truth, which is that we are a part of one larger collective system, an ecosystem, with each component affecting another. This is not woo-woo spirituality. This is proven and widely accepted science. The prefix inter itself requires that we start with the assumption that we are inherently disconnected. But science has confirmed that the idea of separation is delusional in the modern mind. Scientists and mystics call this the illusion of the separate self. One of the greatest wisdom teachings for many indigenous cultures is the understanding that we are just not just connected to all things, but rather that we are all things. Don't confuse this with the idea of oneness. What we're suggesting here is greater than oneness. It is wholeness, which posits that even in our individuality, we are part of a wholeness. This is why the term intraconnection rather than interconnection makes such a powerful distinction. Interconnection considers the fact of self. The I, me, that we describe as ourselves as a part of the whole, intricately connected to a larger network of all the other individuals in this planet. With intraconnection, we take a different stance on the connecting across divides. We are seeking to create deeper and stronger bonds within something that is already whole, even when others seem to believe or act differently than we do. Thus, to do this work, we must be operating from a place of wholeness instead of oneness and other, to understand that we are already more than connected, that we are part of the same system, the same whole. We must move beyond oneness and otherness in order to ending racism. Ending racism is not putting all our values, cultures, traditions, and differentiation into a blender to create some we are all one raceless, homogeneous smoothie. We must honor our differences, our differentiation. Wholeness allows us to do that. Oneness does not. Think of your living, breathing human body. Your body comprises differentiated organs that each evolved to serve specific purposes that helps keep you alive. Each of these organs on their own serves no other purpose. It is only when these organs work together into one larger whole, intra-connected, fashioned, that they are thriving and serve their intended purpose. At the same time, they're differentiated and need different nutrients, care, and support. I could read you a whole book, but that was the little bit of reading. So this is titled How We Ended Racism, just as the book was titled that. And there's another book that I'm going to weave into this as well, and if you two can put the two books up again. So the other book is This Here Flesh by Cole Arthur Riley, Spirituality, Liberation, and Stories That Make Us, creator of Black Liturgies, and it's a New York Times bestseller. So that's the other book I'll weave in at some point in this. That one I stole from the First United Methodist Church lobby. It's their August read there. And the other one is one that a colleague of mine up in Asheville, this one, How We Ended Racism, a colleague in Asheville was reading the last time I saw her, and I decided that's going to be on my summer read list. And so I picked it up. Honestly, these are different concepts from the way I have approached anti-racism before. And in fact, the first point that the authors make is being anti won't work. Being anti won't work. The way they put it, fighting against racism will never work. It will only fight back. We must be fighting for something rather than fighting against something. They say this, when we are fighting against something, we often become even more disconnected from one another than when we started, because our only tether to one another is the problem itself. They say, instead, create a vision of the future. What was that line from the song? Seeing it? The hole in the fabric and what? See the tomorrow. Yeah, see the tomorrow. Secondly, you can't fix racism, but ending it is possible. And this is how they write about it. Think about it. What the heck is fixed racism anyway? I like their way of talking. Let us be clear. You don't fix racism. You don't improve racism. You don't make it better. You end it. We have learned through anthropology, neuroscience, sociology, and psychology that racism is not some automatic human condition that we're born with. Although it's hard for us to imagine, racism is not something that's unavoidable. It's not a given. Okay, not a given. So what do? They said, third point, we must build our cultural immune system. They say it this way, think of the idea of ending racism as a metaphor for our immune system. In order to have a healthy immune system, we can't just fight sickness, we must also be proactive in cultivating wellness and good health. Look at ending racism the same way. We're not fighting racism, we're changing the conditions and the context in which racism occurs. We must evolve our culture to be one that has an even better equipped immune system to hold competing ideals. To hold competing ideals. One that has practices, knowledge, and systems in place that make it hard for racism to show up. When and if it does show up, the immune system of our culture is strong enough to handle it. Then, we, each of us, they say, individually and collectively, are the end of racism. When racism touches you, it ends. If enough of us learn the skills needed and take them into our own individual areas of influence with all our fields of expertise, into all of our circles, into all of our relationships, then we can and will end racism together. I'm going to tell you a story from their book later about that one. 4, you don't have to be ashamed of your privilege. How many of you have gone through workshops where you're identifying your privilege, unpacking your backpack of privilege, understanding being in a place of privilege? I've been through a lot of that. Contrary to popular belief, they say in many anti-racist and bias trainings, your privilege is not something to be ashamed of or silent about. We see it, instead, as your most authentic entry point to help the movement for change. If you're lucky enough to get out of a burning house before the fire department arrives, and there's still others trapped inside the flames, your responsibility is to grab a hose and start dousing the house with water. They're using that as an example. I don't know that that's the right suggestion, but this is what they're writing. Having privilege gives you the opportunity to hold more hoses. Most of us have been so ashamed of our privilege that we choose to hide it. Thus, instead of getting out of the burning house and helping to douse the raging fire, we play small and pretend that we can't hold any more hoses because we don't want to look too privileged. We don't want to look too privileged or make it all about us. In the meantime, the house is burning down with people trapped inside. Obviously, they're a metaphor for racism, okay? These are being summarized on a website called nextbigideaclub.com. And they tell a little bit more about their background here. Usually we would introduce authors before we do the readings, but because I'm including it in this, I want to put it here, because they talk about it here. They say, We both grew up in a significant level of struggle, with Justin in a biracial, low-income household and Shelley as a Jewish immigrant. We both have worked hard to create better lives for ourselves and our families. Thus, our children, we anticipate, would be far more privileged than us. And of course, we wouldn't want our kids to be ashamed of that because we worked hard for them. Our task is not to raise children without privilege or who learn to hide it, but instead to raise children into a culture that is actively ending racism so they can be the first children to never question whether they should hold hoses when they see a burning house. They will inherently understand that they have a moral responsibility to hold as many as their privilege allows them to hold, and they will take pride in helping as many as they can. I'll make a final fifth point from their books here and talk a little bit. Messy conversations are essential, and here's how to have them. The best conversation skill we can teach you is the difference between calling forward and calling out. First, let's make some distinctions. Calling out means publicly naming a wrong, an infraction, or a mistake. Calling out leads to cancel culture. Cancel culture is ineffective and divides us further. The problem is that calling out typically gets infused with shame, blame, and guilt, and is well documented in studies in the fields of psychology, anthropology, sociology, and even neuroscience. The shaming, blaming, and guilting someone shuts down the center of their brain responsible for learning and growth. Here's a question you can ask yourself as a litmus test prior to having a difficult conversation. They say this: do I want to be heard or do I want to be effective? Ooh, that's a good question that the authors are asking. Do I want to be heard or do I want to be effective? You must be brutally honest with yourself about your true intentions, and if you use the tactics of shame, blame, and guilt, it blocks the ability of the person you're speaking to actively listen and shunts it down for them to learn. Calling forward, on the other hand, they say, is a model of communication that we coined several years ago that flips the idea of calling out on its head, turning it into something more effective for bringing people together. While calling out is fighting against what someone did wrong, calling forward is an invitation to be something greater. It's an invitation to be greater. While calling out is fighting against who we hate, calling forward is building upon what we love. Calling forward is inviting people into a greater state of integration and evolution. Now, I hear that concept. All of this has been quotes from the authors. But when I hear that concept, I begin to think of the toughest parts of recognizing, as a UU, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of others. How hard is it? Have you experienced it the way I have? How hard it is to recognize the inherent worth and dignity of somebody you are already labeling as a bully, as ignorant, as somehow lesser than? Somebody you're gonna educate these people. You're gonna call them out and educate these people. Some of us have, tried out the Braver Angels or other conversations where people learn how to listen and talk to each other. I think it's our commitment to helping people their spiritual growth that points us in a way, combined with looking at inherent worth and dignity, to look at that point number 5, that messy conversations are essential, and we can stop calling out people and call them forward instead. Cole Arthur Riley in the book said, you got to be grounded. She talked about this in different ways, and I'll quote something here that she had to learn on her spiritual path. She said, I used to think that Christian contemplation was reserved for white men who leave copies of C.S. Lewis's letters strewn about and know a great deal about coffee and beard oil. If this is you, there is room for you here, but I'm interested in reclaiming contemplation that is not exclusive to whiteness, intellectualism, ableism, or mere hobby. As a black woman, I'm disinterested in any call to spirituality that divorces my mind from my body, voice, or people. To suggest a form of faith that tells me to sit down alone and be quiet It does not rest easy on the bones. It's a shadow of true contemplate of life, and it would do violence to my black woman's soul. Again, that's Cole Arthur Riley. What I talk about here and what I'm trying to pull out here may come from a particular cultural perspective. And I think a lot of times I ask you all to sit and be quiet. I did today. Didn't I ask you to sit and be quiet? And Cole Arthur Riley is saying, look, yeah, find your way to meditate, to connect. Find your way, but to tell a black woman to sit down and be quiet? And that's what's going to be best for her? So I got to remember culturally, as I'm trying to draw out the best of all of us, that I need to talk to a population that's broader than what I experience myself. So I listened to some of the stories of what she experienced and what she needed in her book, what brought her a spiritual centeredness, what brought her into the world in a way that taught her her worth and value in a world that was constantly against it. Remember that opening that said we come from a chaos, we come from noise, and she came from a whole lot of folks who were talking about her skin. She says she remembers, she and her sister, they had this ritual with their father. Their father would call them over and he would then braid their hair, taking a long time to braid their hair. And then I think she phrased it this way, at the very end, he'd lick his finger, put it on their eyelashes, and remind them that they look beautiful. They are perfect. She said that seeped in time and time again as this care by an adult was showing them. That message helps counteract and ground in them a sense of their value. I see you. You are beautiful. You are wonderful in yourself. There are a whole lot of people who will put you down in life. The other authors speak of examples of workshops they've led with people and have tried to, I told you I'd tell you some stories about what was working with them. And clients who were placed in positions of just such disrespect, who needed to enforce their boundaries, to call forward the people around them, but also enforce boundaries for their own health and safety. That, remember that part of having racism end with you? When racism touches you, let it end. He tells the story of a guy named Joe. I probably made up that name, but hey, why not? Guy named Joe at work. And he goes out with his colleagues, and they are always muttering under their breath, making some derogatory comments about people who were other than them. Remember the whole part about not othering others? And it got to the point where it's like, I don't want to lose my friendships. I got to work with these people in teams at work. And so he was coached by the book authors. Okay, try this. And the best practices possible about calling forward. Seeing them and saying, you've got potential here. Hey, can we not do this? Can we do something else instead? Can we see a different tomorrow? And the friends weren't into that. In fact, they started then dissing him, calling him names. Everything that he feared, just alienation and everything. Oh, it's just all in fun. It's all in fun, Joe. But it wasn't. It was hurtful. He finally decided, okay, I have tried to call forward. And what I'm going to do now is set my boundary. I'm not going out to lunch with them anymore. I've got to work with them. But if I can't stand working with them anymore, I'll ask to be assigned to a different team. But I'm not going out to lunch with them anymore. I'm not hanging with them. And so he found a different group around his workplace that he could go out to lunch with. And he said, I have no clue. I'm paraphrasing their story, but he said, I had no clue. I hadn't really interacted with these people at all. And the very first time we went out to lunch together, they were having deep conversations with each other. He found that by finding a new set of friends, he was placed back into a state of his immune system, his health system was strengthened. And his friends didn't understand. How could you hang out with them? But, well, his friends, the other people that he was a part of who hadn't been called out. It's hard. It reminds me of a quote from Booker T. Washington that Midge had suggested me as we pondered this topic. Booker T. Washington said, "Great men cultivate love, and only little men cherish a spirit of hatred. Assistance given to the weak makes the one who gives it strong. Oppression of the unfortunate makes one weak." Now that's about as political as your minister can get, to quote that. Great men cultivate love, and only little men cherish a spirit of hatred. Assistance given to the weak makes the one who gives it strong, and oppression of the unfortunate makes one weak. If the political implications of Booker T. Washington's quote don't sink in yet, it's okay. It takes time. It's all right. I believe the challenges of all of this. I believe that we can listen to the stories of people who are from different cultural perspectives than us, who come from a place of wisdom and can name the places that they're from, and remembering how place or the people that they're from have helped teach them, whether good or ill, teach them a new way forward. Help them envision, by positive or negative example, a new tomorrow that becomes the goal. Not to fight one another, but to call forward one another. These are some of the most challenging and most UU statements that I think I can find, and they're not either, so far as I can tell. I mean, if I saw anything saying they were UUs, I would have look, I have a UU book. That's who I am. It's like, look at all these great things from UUs. So I'm listening to people who've come to this conclusion from whatever religious paths they came from, and saying, just like I stole the book from the Methodists, I want to steal these ideas. Actually, I'm borrowing it. I'm going to put it back in the lobby next week. Put it back in the pile. I'm going to thank my colleague for having read a book and shown it to me, and I'm thinking, how we ended racism? What is that one? And go a little deeper and find out 5 ways we might be able to strengthen our own selves to do it. I encourage you, if you want to learn from these authors, go for it. If you just want to hear, again, the book report that I've recorded for YouTube, go ahead and listen again. I think it's good stuff. Thank you for listening. Our final hymn is aspirational, number 121. We've sung it a lot of times. Why do I like this hymn? We'll build a land. I like it because it's good stuff. I have a benediction from Ma Teresa Tet Gusila Gilado. Let us reach the place of self, the place that is not alien to truth. Let us wash over with peace and serenity, with fierce longing for light and heart, with living strength flowing in our veins, bringing ourselves into fearlessness and into trust. Blessings on all of you. May you go out and do good, and may you come back into this place of love.